Hello, in this video I wanted to communicate the concept of self-awareness or the awareness of self. Post the point of the quantitative knowing, a quantitative understanding of what it means for you to be human. So post your understanding that the humanity or the nature of a human existence revolves around the being of self, the observation of self within the experience of your life. After that standpoint of yourself comes through, after that you can start to understand that within your actions and within the propagation of your being, you're simply creating, you are reinforcing, and you're shining your light out onto the perimeters or periphery of your world. And so the existence of your being and understanding of your being as a higher reflection of the greater whole then carries you through to where every action and every aspect of self that you communicate into the world then reflects that essence. It reflects that understanding. It actually also carries and reflects the peace that comes along with this innate knowing or innate comprehension of the fact that you are divine, you're a spark of divine, and you're representing that divinity and carrying that divinity forth in your everyday actions. And so with that understanding, with the observation of phase of knowing who you are and then knowing what you're able to offer into the world, from that point on, then you're able to function in a completely different way, or what would be called the vibrational frequency of your being. And so the change of that perception, the understanding of that perception in that point, in that moment, completely alters and changes the perception and the frequency of your being. And after that understanding, a really solidified understanding of what it means to be human and why are you here, then you're walking your path basically under the different circumstances. Your life is the same, your everyday family situations, friend situations, interactions might even look the same, but the perception itself shifts completely the line in which you now walk this earth. And so within that understanding, post the observation, post the awareness, within the connection to the oneness, then you follow along and you breathe in or interweave the essence of truth in everything that you do and everywhere that you go. And from the standpoint of enlightenment, if that is the term that we want to use here, that would be the ultimate a point of achievement, in the sense that awareness then propagates itself all the way through your being. And at no point are you offering anything other than this pure awareness. The actions themselves can be what they are. They can function in the form of duality. They can action in the form of good or bad. The concepts of sex actually become completely irrelevant once you zone in and just become aware of the path that you're walking. From another standpoint, if you start looking at it from the different reflective lens, you'll also start to realize that within this action of propagation of being, a propagation of the divinity within this three-dimensional realm, your action then become truly aligned with the greater whole, with the ultimate purpose of discovery, the ultimate purpose of being. And so in essence, it almost becomes by default that you are unable to offer anything other than purity and peace and tranquility out of your sense of self. And so to relate this to our three-dimensional existence, if you look at the stories of Jesus, and you look at stories of Buddha or any other enlightened beings, that we have come to classify this on this earth, their essence of truth just exists in the complete radiance of themselves as a form, right? We almost look at their functionality as divine and angelic, and we don't know where to interpret it, and we do not know where to put it. But in fact, this is the aspect that I'm trying to describe here, is that once your being connects to the whole and connects to the love and understanding of what it means to be human, what it means to be in recognition of one another, what it means to be an observer of your actions from the true standpoint, and then understanding what that observation offers, and then stepping back from the observation, and then simply being, almost in this, from three-dimensional world, what seems like a inaction, but in that inaction, in each point of inaction, carries an action of pure of pure, divine essence. So divine essence flows through, just like the divine essence, that we would describe, or we would recall the stories of Jesus' vibration out as this being that is unattainable and indescribable, and we don't even know where that essence is coming from. In that same way, if we connect to the truth within our heart, right, we can actually understand what his vibration represents, what his vibration, what his essence, Jesus's or Buddha's or any enlightened beings, enlightened yogis, their essence actually represent the greater representation of the whole. And so it is unfamiliar to us, and is magical, and is divine, and it is transcendent, because in fact it transcends, that point of awareness transcends our three-dimensional limited interpretation. It transcends our actions of self that would propagate anything other than this perfect unity, perfect representation, and then that is the only thing we would communicate forward. And so from the three-dimensional aspect, if you're on a path to spiritual enlightenment, if you're on a path to greater knowing, I do want to point out this is not something that you would go on attaining from the standpoint of cognitive awareness, right? It is almost like the lack of the chase and the lack of your recognition into duality, into knowing, into being, into propagation, brings the stillness in. And then only at the complete point of the stillness are you able to connect to this finite, different frequency, a different set of frequencies that carry this essence of stillness that is the divine representation forward. And so the concept of us ceases to exist from the falsehood of its being. We can no longer propagate false. We can no longer propagate our own internal lies to self whenever we connect to this greater interpretation and greater essence of this knowing. And so at some point in your future, you will touch on this transitional click of change, on this transitional difference. And then post that point, post that click, things will just be utterly different, but in the most surreal and truthful way. And so you will be able to walk this plane in pure joy and understanding, not from the place of self where you're trying to bring that feeling out of an action, or not a place of self where you're trying to bring that the longing into fruition, out of complete stillness, where you don't have any desires, where you don't have any requirements, where you don't have any yearnings for more. Out of that stillness comes the divine recognition that you can just then carry forth and be. And then, the ultimate potential of this is the expansion of this frequency into multitude of beings, into multitude of human potential, the entity propagation out into our life. Through that, through this greater immersion of you as an individual being into this divine representation that is stillness of self, you will be able to center in and disconnect from the untruth. And if nothing else, to begin with, that would be the ultimate point of understanding and awakening, is the untruth, not of the world, but the untruth of self that you carry within. After you disconnect from that, you will be able to carry the essence of the divine. That is this flowing river of hope. It is a frequency that comes into this plane, and it propagates itself so extensively that it consumes mountains and mountains of untruth. And so the untruth almost cannot live around the space where this frequency functions. And hence that's the essence. The essence is once you marry the truth, once you marry the stillness, once you marry the unity of the divine, that is your internal knowing. Nothing else has an option to be from the energetic standpoint, because your frequency has lifted. But from the human, three-dimensional interpretation, is because you're no longer willing to walk and live in anything other than the truth and the oneness of your soul with your higher being. So yes, this would be a great interpretation of the path that one would follow, or the progression of the process of enlightenment that you would take without cognitively taking any actions. Just stillness would be the final point of that interpretation, and then post the stillness, you're entering into a new phase where the frequency is something different. And so I hope this is helpful, and happy living.